So I just caught up with the Marvel Spider-Man 2 Prelude comic, and it's pretty good. It gave us some really nice story details and what to expect from the game, and I'm going to be breaking it down here bit by bit so you guys don't have to read it for yourself. But if you do, it's on the Marvel Unlimited app. I do recommend go reading it, it's actually really good, and also I'll give my opinions on it too. But before we do get into that, make sure you're subscribed, because 86.6% of you aren't actually subscribed to the channel or watch these videos, and you clicked on this video, so of course you like Spider-Man, so subscribe. So we start off the comic with Jonah Jameson and his podcast. He's actually got Mary Jane on the podcast as well. So basically here, Jonah Jameson is basically in a debate with MJ, and MJ is calling him out on being a bad reporter. We know from Jameson's past that obviously he's very biased when it comes to Spider-Man and stuff like that, and this scene is basically MJ just calling Jameson out for the years of perpetuating hate against Spider-Man. But this is really important later, so we'll come back to it. But essentially, it's basically about Jameson being a reporter of the old times and basically not being able to keep with the times and basically being someone that isn't able to keep up in a modern society. But like I said, this will come back around. We then also get introduced to Miles and Peter, who are fighting Tarantula. Now, this is a cool fight scene. We get told that apparently Peter tried to lead the fight into the building that MJ and Jonah were doing the podcast in, which I thought was really funny, because obviously Peter doesn't agree with what Jonah has to say either, so I thought that was quite funny. But then we also learned that Peter Parker is in fact living in Aunt May's house in Queens. Now, we know Aunt May died at the end of the first game, and now the house is all that Peter has left. He even tells MJ that that's everything he's got left of Aunt May and Uncle Ben, so he wants to hold on to the house as long as possible. But he obviously, you know, because he's Peter Parker, he can't actually afford the rent. So he asks MJ to move in with him. But because of MJ's work, and she's actually doing this new book, and she's got a bunch of other stuff in her career, she can't actually move in with him in Queens because she has to carry on living in the city. So she's near to her work, and she can basically be accessible to various different jobs throughout the city, which makes total sense. But it seems like a core part of MJ and Peter's relationship in this upcoming game will be about them taking that next step in their relationship. You know, they've known each other for 8 years plus, right? At this point in the universe, they've known each other for a very long time. They grew up together, they went to school, they've been on and off for so many years, and they finally got back together. Are they going to be taking things an extra step in the game? We'll just have to find out. But it looks like a big theme that is being set up by this comic is that apparently they're going to be moving in at some point, and whether that'll be in the next game or whether that'll be in 3, I don't actually know. But this is a big theme going into Marvel Spider-Man 2. I also think there are a few hints here that potentially we could see them getting married at some point as well, and I think this is really good because Peter Parker is growing up here, and we get the hint that Peter Parker is growing up and he wants to take a little bit of a back step in terms of the Spider-Man stuff because he's also going to be becoming a teacher as well, which we learn later on in the book too. But this ties directly into what we're going to talk about next, which is Miles Morales. We get introduced to Miles, and essentially he is trying to figure out where he's going to go next with his life. Like, he's going to go to college, he wants to do music, but also he doesn't want to give up the science as well. And he doesn't want to give up the science because, you know, he's Spider-Man. That's kind of his thing, right? Spider-Man's thing is science, you know, whether you're designing tech for the suit or you're doing some kind of programming. Miles loves science, but also he loves music at the same time. And Miles' whole kind of arc, I guess you could say, in this prelude is that he has to try and figure out what he's going to be doing. And eventually, by the end of the book, spoilers, he actually decides that he's going to be doing a course at ESU, Empire State University, to do a music technology course, which he says is the best of both worlds because then he gets to stay in New York, he gets to do music, and also ESU is a very sciencey, techie-based university, so he's going to have access to a bunch of other tech that he could use as Spider-Man. So this is where we're going with Marvel Spider-Man 2. Miles is going to be attending ESU, and Peter is going to be living in Queens. Now, these are two crucial things that we need to talk about, because number one, that means that Queens is definitely going to be a part of the map in Marvel Spider-Man 2. As we know, the main Manhattan was basically just the map for Marvel Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales, but it seems like Marvel Spider-Man 2 is going to have the whole of Manhattan, and then we're going to have Queens as well. Will we have the likes of Brooklyn and other boroughs in New York? I'm not too sure. Hopefully at some point in the future, maybe even in a DLC, we could get something like that. But it looks like at this moment in time, we are going to be getting Queens, and we're also going to be getting Manhattan too. But with the inclusion of Miles going to ESU, we could potentially have the ESU campus to explore as well in more depth, and potentially we could explore the whole of the university from the inside too, which could be really cool. After the catch-up between MJ, Miles, and Peter, and all the exposition is kind of out there, exploring all of the ideas that we're we're going to be having going into the second game, they go on a mission, and then they actually encounter a group that calls themselves the Hood, and essentially they use cloaking tech to essentially allow them to commit crimes and steal and basically make money this way. And it's actually really cool because we get a cool fight scene with Miles and Peter trying to take these guys down, and essentially they keep going invisible, so they have to find out where they are. And essentially, Miles and Peter find out that basically this massive group is doing the bidding for one person. So obviously we've got one person at the top basically conducting all of these mass criminal heists that are going on around the city with this group called the Hood that is using cloaking tech. And basically there's a little bit of a joke in there as well between Miles and Peter after the events of Marvel's Spider-Man 1 with the demons and Mr. Negative. Basically Peter is saying and suggesting that these guys could actually be magical, and Miles is basically saying, Peter, you're so science-based, how can you think these guys are using magic? And it's quite funny because we also get a reference to Sandman as well, and Peter says that he's fought someone that was made of sand once, which confirms to us that apparently obviously, Peter has fought Sandman in this universe. We already knew that from a couple of the references in the first game, but once again, just solidifying the fact that Peter has fought Sandman. And that's another hint to his backstory in the last 8 years of him being Spider-Man. But yeah, I just thought that moment was really cool. Either way, MJ, Miles, and Peter all figure out kind of where this guy is, the guy behind everything, the guy behind all the cloaking tech and the Hood. And essentially, they track him down. And they track him down to this warehouse. But then they also find out that the guy behind everything is actually losing his mother, and the reason that he's been committing all these crimes is so he can get the money to buy this magical tablet. Now, it's implied that this tablet isn't actually magical and it's kind of all in his head, but he thinks it will work. And essentially, Miles and Peter arrive on the scene. They see him trying to perform this ritual to bring his mother back to life, essentially to give her more life because she is dying of cancer. And Miles wants to jump straight in and stop him, and Peter kind of says, you know what, wait just a minute, Miles, let's just see what happens here, because they can both clearly see that this man is desperately trying to save his mother. And I think this was also a nice callback to Aunt May as well. I think Peter could see a lot of what happened between him and Aunt May in this scene as well. There's also a part of the scene where his mother says, take back that hood, let me see your face, which is exactly what Aunt May says to Peter when obviously in the final scene when she's dying from Devil's Breath, she tells Peter to take off his mask because she knows that he's Spider-Man. So it was a nice moment and a nice callback and a parallel to that scene in Marvel's Spider-Man 1. So I think Peter feels a lot of remorse for this guy as well. So they go down and they try and talk him out of using it essentially. And we also get this nice panel where they remember someone that they've lost, and we also do get a picture of Aunt May there as well with Jefferson Davis standing behind Miles too, which was quite cool. And then obviously it all kicks off. They have a little bit of a fight scene as the guy refuses to basically give up this piece of rock, essentially, like this tablet that apparently is magical. And then they eventually convince him to stop fighting and, you know, give him a moment with his mother. And then Spider-Man, both of them, they go out and they basically talk to the police who are outside and say, you know what, give this guy a minute because he's just about to lose his mother. And yeah, it's a really nice moment. That's pretty much it for the main action of the Prelude comic, but then we also get everything tying back around with a nice scene between MJ, Peter, and Miles, and basically MJ and Peter saying that, you know what, they're gonna be okay, they just need to figure out stuff with their careers first, and, you know, they don't want to take on too much at once. MJ says that, you know, she's comfortable moving in with Peter, she just doesn't know that she's gonna do it yet, and Peter agrees with her. And this is where we get Miles basically saying that he's going to ESU as well, which I really like. And then we actually end the comic with J. Jonah Jameson buying the Daily Bugle. And yes, J. Jonah Jameson doesn't actually own the Daily Bugle in the Marvel Spider-Man universe. In fact, he used to own it, but he doesn't anymore. And the comic ends with J. Jonah Jameson buying it back. So that means that by the start of the game, J. Jonah Jameson is going to own the Daily Bugle. But that is it for the end of the comic. And I actually really like this comic because it is a massive tie-in and a massive hint for a bunch of stuff that is going to be happening in the actual game. Another thing with Prelude comics is that usually you can skip them, right? Because you can just go into the game and a bunch of stuff that is in the Prelude comic will basically be reiterated in the game anyway. And I'm sure a bunch of the stuff in this comic will be as well. However, I do think that this game gives us some really good story details as to what to expect from the game. And I think it's probably going to add a lot of context to the game itself. So if you haven't read this comic, I definitely recommend reading it. If this video, obviously, you know, if you want to read it for yourself and, you know, this video wasn't enough, you want to go read it yourself page by page, then go do that. I highly recommend it because this comic is really great, and it's definitely going to tie in heavily with the game as well. So that being said, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, because we cover everything Spider-Man. We talk about Spider-Man all the time, and I'm just really grateful to have all of you on board. You guys are, the support is great, and I really love you guys supporting every single video, watching all the videos, and just basically just making this YouTube dream possible. It's been really, really great, and I'm hoping that we can carry on in years to come. Also, the members page is open at the moment as well. It's called Lewis Unlimited. If you want to join for just 99 pence a month to support the channel, to support me and my content, that would be absolutely brilliant. And the perks for that is that you get priority reply to comments, you basically get exclusive emojis and badges, and also you get every single video that I upload exclusively early. And also, if you get the upper tier, which is just an extra £2, then you can get exclusive content that no one else can see other than you. But that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, and peace.